All products and services featured are independently chosen by editors. However, soaps.com may receive a commission on orders placed through its retail links, and the retailer may receive certain auditable data for accounting purposes. Esther is at Crimson Lights, dropping Nick and Summer's order off at their table. She can see they need their caffeine, and they tell her she's the best. Esther admits she's been distracted from pecan pie muffins by her worries about Sharon. The boss hasn't been responding to her calls, and that's not like her. Nick claims she's just off at a spa. "I hope she's enjoying herself," Esther says snippily. After she walks off, Chance arrives and announces there is no trace of Phyllis. Her car is at the athletic club and there's no record of her getting a ride. Nick fills him in on the call that Phyllis made to Summer and wonders if she could really be off on a business road trip. Summer doubts this since her mom would have taken Daniel along with her. She wouldn't have gone from harassing him about work to taking off without a phone call. The cop gets a call confirming there is no record of Sharon checking into any spas in Sedona. When they debate whether Sharon would take off or lie about it, Summer reminds her dad that she just did that a few weeks ago. Nick says she was drugged at the time. His daughter speculates something could have triggered her, but he's not convinced. She suggests Sharon could just be trying to avoid him. He doesn't buy that either. They discuss how worried Sharon was, and Summer tells her dad what a great father he is. Nick doesn't know where to look for answers, but he's 99.9% sure that whatever is happening is not good. Daniel arrives at Billy's place and explains that he hasn't received any response from his mother. He and Nick didn't want to worry him yesterday, but it doesn't make sense that his mom would take off on some mystery trip and give Summer a strange call. There's something off about this whole thing. This leaves a lot of questions. The abbot explains that Phyllis was constantly calling him while he was in Paris. It makes no sense that she would vanish when he started calling back. Daniel points out that Sharon is also gone. They disappeared around the same time. They both believe it's more than cosmic coincidence that two women who hate each other would vanish at the same time and then call in at the same time on burner phones. This all seems like some revenge plan. Phyllis insisted to both of them that she'd moved on from that, and they believe her. But if it isn't revenge, what is happening? They can't imagine Sharon and Phyllis hugging this out. Billy suggests the women could have been taken together. Whoever did it likely had no idea what they were letting themselves in for, and will soon be begging for their captives to be taken away. Jordan and Ian were the only people crazy enough to pull something like this, and they're both dead. Summer calls her brother. She explained she's with her dad and Chance at Crimson Lights, and she's sure he'll want to hear what the cop has to say. Once Daniel gets off the line, Billy tells him he has a lot riding on Phyllis, so he wants to go with him. Phyllis wakes up whining on the couch in the basement of the medical clinic. She had a good night's sleep thanks to Sharon not drooling on her shoulder. When she checks for coffee, she says Sharon's already done a number on it. There was no alarm this morning, which has her wondering if their host wanted them to sleep in. Sharon has been flipping through books and looking for clues about who their captor might be. Knowledge of that may be the only weapon they have. Phyllis doubts they would leave something around to reveal their identity. Sharon is sure the location must be some kind of clue. Connecting the dots, Phyllis whispers that the voice knows about her mental issues. "I think we are on the last stop of your bipolar express," she suggests. Sharon thinks their captor could be a doctor or patient. If Phyllis isn't going to help, Sharon wants her to shut up. The redhead suggests that digging for an identity could just anger the voice. Sharon claims they can use any information they find to get out of there. Claiming she has a better idea, Phyllis says they need to bargain. She reminds her that they are the moms of Victor's grandchildren, and the Newmans have deep pockets. Everyone has a price, and they only need to have it named. Just sticking them in a room together can't be the reward. That would make no sense. Sharon is still determined to find out why they are there. Not concerned about that. Phyllis would be happy to hand off a pile of money to end this. They bicker about Sharon being on both sides of the padded wall. Sharon insists this is no typical kidnapping. Someone is trying to force them to face their past. It could be someone who wants them to learn from their mistakes. Phyllis says that will never happen. Sharon is sure that this is the work of someone who hates how much they hate each other and may have been affected by their conflicts in the past. Although she's not accusing anyone, Sharon doesn't think it's far-fetched to assume that whoever is behind this could be a relative. Immediately, Phyllis takes this as a suggestion that one of her children could be responsible for this. She thinks this is insane, but it makes sense to Sharon in a twisted way. They have been watching them attack each other for years. Phyllis thinks that Sharon should be in a cell for the rest of her life because of what she did to Daniel. Grasping this, Sharon argues that the kids may have realized Phyllis will never drop this, so this is their way to save her from herself by locking them up to sort this out. Offended, Phyllis declares that Sharon is the one who needs saving and has Nick on speed dial for it. Turning it around, Phyllis reminds Sharon of what Faith has been through. Maybe she's trying to teach her a lesson? Sharon says her daughter doesn't have the resources for this. Then Phyllis suggests Mariah could have done it. When Sharon shoots that down, Phyllis nominates Nick. He must be sick of their fighting, and he might want them to finally work things out. Dismissing this as ridiculous, Sharon says there's no way Nick would want them praying for their lives. They start bickering about who he cares about more until Sharon turns the possible blame back on Phyllis' children. Back at Crimson Lights, Nick asks Summer how things are going with Chance. She explains that they are being civil to one another, but it's hard for her to be with him after the way he treated Daniel. Her father reminds her that he was just doing his job. She'll concede it, and she's always admired how devoted he is to his job, but she wanted his support. Instead, he felt like the enemy, but he has gone out of his way to help, and that means a lot. As they talk about Phyllis, Nick urges her to be positive, sure that she will come firing back into town. His daughter can't shake her memories of what happened to Heather. They all urge Daniel to be positive, but look at how that turned out. Nick will concede all that, but for the time being, they need to send out positive energy. Billy and Daniel join them as Chance returns. The cop explains that there's no record of Phyllis taking a ride, and there's no record of Sharon at any spa. They basically have no idea what's going on. Billy explains that he and Daniel suspect Sharon and Phyllis are together and not by choice. They can't imagine who would want to go after both of them. They continue speculating and wondering if this is all random or if the only people involved are the two women. When Esther comes out with a refill for Nick, she asks if he's heard from her boss. She has an important appointment to have her coffee grounds read. Sharon was supposed to cover for her. He assures her she will get there, and she runs off to check with the other employees to see if they can cover. Chance gets a call and walks off. Again, Nick urges his daughter to keep up the positive energy. Chance returns and explains Sharon's car was found in the parking lot at work. He asks them for the numbers of the burner phones to see if they can track a general location. This is starting to sound like an official investigation to Daniel. Back in the basement, screaming she's had enough, Phyllis leaps up and threatens to take the gloves off. Pointing her fingers at Sharon, she tells her this is all her fault. Screaming back, Sharon admits she went too far. Phyllis accuses her of constantly tearing her family apart and then begging for forgiveness. Everyone else lets her off the hook and she's tired of it. We cannot let this turn into a war, Sharon insists, suggesting they are playing into their captors' hands. Do they want us to finally get along, or do they want us to kill each other? Phyllis asks. She'd like to know because she's at the end of her rope. Yelling at the intercom, she declares she's ready to fight until only one of them is alive. Shaking her head, Phyllis doesn't know what she's capable of, but she doesn't want to be trapped in a room with a woman she despises. All she wants to know is what the endgame could be. Grabbing a chair, she explains she's going to smash a window and scream until someone hears her. Trying to wrest it from her hands, Sharon complains she's going to get them killed. Begging for the chair, Phyllis insists she has to do something. When Sharon reminds her it's the middle of winter, she lets it drop. They sit down, and Sharon apologizes for accusing her kids. But whoever is behind this is someone who knows them and hates them. Glaring up at the intercom, Phyllis asks if they are entertained by this. "I'm not here to be entertained," explains the voice. "The game is the only thing that matters, and it's time to continue." "What is worth everything but costs nothing?" the voice prompts. The women look at each other.